Can you afford the all-new 2026 C8 Corvette ZR1X? Well, this should be a fun video because this is going to be very speculative because the ZR1X, it just came out. They did not unveil the official pricing yet, but sources like Motor Trend, they're estimating that the ZR1X, it should start at around $190,000 to $200,000. And I think that's going to be correct. I think this vehicle will start at just under $200,000, maybe around $195,000, which would put it $20,000 more than the starting price of the regular ZR1. Comment below, let me know your thoughts on how much you think this new ZR1X is going to start for and what you think it's going to top out at. I'm actually going to go with $225,000 as the example price for this video. The reason why is because I built out two well-spec'd regular 2025 ZR1s, the coupe and the convertible. On average, the electric convertible top, that's going to add about $10,000 to the price of the ZR1. And there's two trim levels. You got the 1LZ and the 3LZ. 3LZ adds about 10 G's to the price as well. Same thing if you go with the ZTK package, which forces you to get the carbon fiber bits. That adds about another $10,000. So a well-equipped 3LZ coupe, when I built it, it was about $206,000. A well-equipped 3LZ convertible, once again with the ZTK package, $215,000. I could actually add the carbon fiber wheels, which is about $14,000 to both of these builds, and the convertible model, it's going to end up being about $228,000. So for me to choose a price of $225,000 for the ZR1X, I'm sure we can all agree that there is going to be at least one configuration of the new ZR1X that's going to cost somewhere in the realm of $225,000. If the outgoing 2025 ZR1s are already going for the $220,000 range well equipped, I'm sure it's not going to be surprising to see ZR1Xs going for the $225,000 price range as well. And we do have confirmation that the ZR1X will also be available in two trims, the 1LZ and the 3LZ. You will be able to get the electric convertible with the ZR1X, and there's also going to be a carbon fiber aero package as well. So hopefully now it makes sense why I chose $225,000 as the price for this example. Now, how do we go about calculating the figures for this? Because we know this vehicle is essentially going to exceed $200,000. That means financing is going to be a challenge. We're pretty much now in the exotic car territory. Banks like Penfed, which is a credit union, they allow for loan amounts of up to $150K. That means if you want more than that, you have to go to some exotic car lenders. An example of that is going to be Woodside Credit. You might know them as the company that hands out like 180-month loans on exotic vehicles. Well, we're gonna have to use them as the example because when you scroll down, they are one of the few banks to actually provide us with an interest rate for these high dollar loans. It's going to be in the 9% range, and that's with 15 to 20% down. That's the other thing we have to understand. Once you get into this realm of over 150K, these banks do want you to put down a considerable down payment, especially if this is the first high dollar car that you have purchased. Banks really want you to have skin in the game. This is not like leasing or financing a regular BMW or a Lexus. You can't just get away with no money down. In fact, qualifying for one of these exotic car loans, it's almost like getting a mortgage. Not surprising, as some of these cars end up costing as much as a house. So I ran a few different finance calcs. I ran one where you put down 20%, which 20% of 225K, that's going to be $45,000. Putting that down, and I chose the ridiculous 180-month term just to see what it'll end up being. So 180 months, 9.03%, according to Woodside's online estimate that they have at the bottom of their website. In a state like Pennsylvania with a 6% sales tax and about $2,800 in title and fees, your monthly payment financing this vehicle at a ridiculous 180 months, it's going to be $1,994.51. If you actually kept that loan for the entirety of 180 months, you're going to pay a total loan interest of $162,000, making the total cost of that loan $404,000. Absolutely wild numbers there. We'll talk about how much income you need in a moment, but what's the purpose of these 180-month loans? Well, what some people do is they'll get this loan from Woodside, either 180 months or something else, 144, or even 96 months, whatever the case might be. They'll just get approved through Woodside, and then they'll immediately turn around and they'll get refinanced through a traditional bank, I guess, like Bank of America, whatever, because those regular banks, they're not too keen on lending out on these high dollar vehicles, at least not right away. But if they see that you've been approved with another bank like Woodside or whatever, they will be more likely to help you do a refinance into a more regular loan term. That's one method that I've heard, and that's just one way that I've heard people use Woodside. And there's actually another way that some people take advantage of the 180-month term. At first, I would think to myself, who would actually finance a vehicle for that long? But then someone told me about this, and it kind of made sense to me, but I still don't like it. It's not a risk that I'm willing to take, but some people will take that 180-month loan on vehicles that they think are either going to go up in value or really maintain their value really well. So obviously, they won't ride out the loan for 180 months. They might keep the car for a year, maybe 2 years. And if it's a vehicle that might go up in value like a Porsche GT3 or a V12 Ferrari, something like that, then effectively they're enjoying that car at a low payment. And then later on, after a year or two, maybe 3 years, they'll just sell the vehicle. They might even make money if the car genuinely appreciated. Basically, they're like gambling on the fact that the vehicle might go up in value. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be the case on like a ZR1 or a ZR1X Corvette. But when this individual explained to me that that's one of the reasons why some people take out those 180-month loans, it made sense to me, but it's still not something that I would personally ever do. It's just not something I'm comfortable with. Now, another calculation that I ran, which I think makes far more sense, is you put down a bit more money in this scenario. So instead of 20%, put down 33%, which is about $75,000, and then get a loan from somewhere like Penfed that has really low interest rates, all things considered. As of right now, June of 2025, Penfed has an interest rate of 4.79% for 60 months. So we know that Penfed only allows for loans up to 150K. So on a 225K car, you tell them that you're putting down 75K and you're going to be financing the rest of the balance through Penfed. I think they will be much happier about giving you that loan. So at that point, using Pennsylvania once again as the example state, we're going to be at $3,122.31. Still paying like 21K in interest, but still, this is one of the only finance terms that I'm actually comfortable with somewhat. There are some other exotic car-oriented banks out there like JJ Best Bank. I have no affiliation with any of these people. Woodside, this JJ, the Penfed, I have no affiliation with any of them. I'm just showing you these examples for entertainment purposes. But JJ doesn't have any interest rates listed on their website, but they do things like airplane, boat financing, RV financing, etc., along with exotic cars and classic cars. There's like another option known as Premier Financial Services. They put together exotic car leases. However, I think they work best for exotics that actually maintain their value pretty well, like once again GT3s and V12 Ferraris maybe. I remember a long time ago, I got a quote from them for like an AMG GT Mercedes, and it seemed like the majority of the lease was going towards interest. So for that particular vehicle, it didn't seem like a very good deal. But once again, who knows? It's going to be different on every single vehicle. It's certainly worth getting a quote from them for sure, but I just thought I would bring it up. Now, before I talk about how much income you need, I should mention that there is a Kelley Blue Book article that mentions the total monthly cost of whatever vehicle that you are purchasing, including the car payment, the insurance, the fuel, etc. All of that combined should not exceed more than 10 to 20% of your net monthly take-home pay. So now we need to figure out the approximate insurance cost and fuel cost for something like a ZR1X. Well, on the mid-engine Corvette forum, someone shared a post from Corvette Blogger, and apparently NCM, the National Corvette Museum Insurance, they provided an annual quote on a regular ZR1 that costs about $175,000. For a 55-year-old that drives less than 3,000 miles a year, they estimated $2,338 per year on like a base model 2025 regular ZR1. And apparently NCM does have rather good insurance rates for Corvettes, and they offer agreed value protection, so that's nice. But that's for a regular ZR1. Let's just say $3,000 a year because we're talking about the ZR1X in this video. Let's just increase the cost, why not? Regarding fuel, apparently a regular ZR1 is going to be about $300 per month in fuel, according to this Google AI. So insurance and fuel, about $550 a month. Could be more, it could be less, depending on who you are, where you live, how much you drive, whatever. Let's just overestimate a few of these things. So that means for that first scenario where I mentioned 20% down for that ridiculous 180-month loan, which had an interest rate of 9.03%. The payment was $1,994. Add in the insurance and the fuel. Your total monthly finance cost, it's going to be $2,544.51. That means to afford the ZR1X at a estimated $225,000 MSRP, you got to be bringing in between $12,722.55 per month to $25,445.10 per month for it to be 10% of your net monthly income, but approximately 12 G's a month if you want this payment to be around 20% of your net monthly income. That is comical to me that technically someone making about 12 G's a month could go out and get this hypothetical $225,000 vehicle. Not a good idea, but I guess it's technically possible. Obviously, 180 months is ridiculous. That 12K a month individual is much better off getting a townhouse and paying that off in like 15 years instead of this blasted car. But anyway, let's move on. The second scenario that I ran was with 33% down, or about $75,000 down payment, and then financing the rest through a credit union like Penfed at 4.79% for 60 months. That finance payment alone was about $3,100 a month. Add in the insurance and the fuel, you're at $3,672.31 per month. That means you got to be bringing in between $18,000 to $36,000 per month in net monthly take-home pay. Then I ran just one other calculation where you put down 15% because who knows, maybe GM Financial, Chevrolet themselves might allow you to put 15% down, which is about $33,750 down. And you take out a slightly more typical loan of like 84 months with still a interest rate of over 9%. Your payment's going to be like $3,300 a month. And then you add in the insurance and the fuel. We're at $3,848.78. So with that lower down payment and with the longer term, you still have a high payment. So you got to be bringing in between $19,000 to $38,000 per month to afford even that particular simulation. But anyway, this is all just a speculation, just a guesstimate, just for fun. At the end of the day, most individuals buying things like ZR1s, ZR1Xs, things like Porsche GT3s, etc., a lot of them actually just end up paying cash for these vehicles. There's really not much information out there regarding people taking out house-sized loans for these vehicles, because even in the GT3 forum, everyone's like, yeah, we just pay cash for our cars. Most people buying this stuff, they usually just end up getting this at like the end of their life when they're like Methuselah, 900 years old, and they have everything in order, houses are paid off, families taken care of, kids are in college, etc. Stuff like this is like the final thing that they end up getting in life. At that point, they're just going to have like fully funded 401ks. Money doesn't matter anymore. There's no such thing as opportunity cost for these people anymore. They just don't care. They just cash out on everything. But it's just fun to run these numbers. If you're like a business person, you're slightly younger, whatever the case might be, it's just interesting to see these numbers and to see just how much income you need and just how much interest you end up paying in these various scenarios. Comment below, let me know your thoughts on how much you think this ZR1X is going to cost. What did you think about these payments and the income needed? Did you find value with this content? If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. But thank you again for watching. Take care and goodbye.